Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 4 of the Rewatch Podcast, presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schutz, here once again to deep dive into space and philosophy. Joining me for this fine recording session is one Stephen Howard.
Who's still not over that Artemis 2 got pushed back an extra month, and now we have to wait for another month for people to orbit the moon again. And they're not even going to go on an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Breach.
Amanda Howard is here as well.
I don't have a follow-up to that. I guess I'm sorry.
One Nick Castile is here.
Existing somewhere outside of the space and time. Still stuck in this recording.
One Josh Cox.
Shimmering into the finale here like a dad from your past.
And last, but always never least, one Gary Delaney.
I'm really sad that Jake Busey, the most interesting character in this entire movie, won't be in the rest of the movie.
What?
The guy who has 5 minutes of screen time, Gary's most interesting character. If that.
Okay, I want to point out real quick that I'm very upset that we got vetoed for saying hi, I'm Gary, and then Gary didn't even say hi, I'm Gary.
Hi.
Yeah, Gary, I could have done that.
Hi, I'm Gary.
I don't know why Gary was upset
I'm
about
Gary.
it.
Hi, I'm Gary.
Jake Busey did have a piece in this film, and he had a piece of him over there. There was another piece of him over here too.
Boo. So, dear listener, we are back here to kind of pick up our conversation of the movie Contact. We had to put a pause in the last one here, and we are now recuperating.
I love it.
I like that word.
I'm using that word from now on.
We're back to kind of finish up where we left off. So, Nick, why don't you pick us back up where we kicked it off?
You bet. I'd love to recuperate. So we were talking about right after the explosion, Jake Busey's character turned out to be a terrorist. And yeah, that was no bueno. We were talking a little bit.
Seen that coming. That was just absolutely.
Was it the look he gave while he stared deep into the camera? And was it the look he gave you?
No radical religious person has ever done anything terrible in history. Where did they draw this inspiration from? Come on now.
Faith and science advancement have always gone hand in hand.
So you guys made fun of Jake Busey. He's only in a little bit of this movie. He's only in scene once. And then immediately, he is such a recognizable sociopath that immediately you're like, oh my God, he's not supposed to be here.
But that's the point of him. He's not like Steve Harrington from Stranger Things Season 1, where he just played such a good character that they went, yeah, I guess we got to bring him back now. That was what his character was supposed to be. He was supposed to be the weirdo that sticks out.
But in the list of weirdos she drives by, like he wasn't any of the other weirdos could have showed up, but like it's just like he was.
They do a zoom in on his face.
Gary, are you like praising the actor for doing his well done job, or are you like just thrilled about the character?
A little bit both. He did a good job.
I think the interesting part that Gary may be alluding to is the fact that most of the crazies are just kind of doing their own thing. Like, you're allowed to enjoy your beliefs however you want to. But when this particular individual's beliefs were, are these the people you want talking to your God? You know, clearly it's threatening or antagonistic. I think that's part of the problem. Stephen?
I think that although we have Jake Busey as a stand-in for everyone here, I don't necessarily, if this thing was to happen today, I don't necessarily see this being as an uncommon event, and not just for one religion either. I mean, this is honestly not even for one belief system. I'm not even going to say just religion. There's going to be. I remember my high school science teacher telling me that humans deserved to all die on the Earth because we would just make the solar system a worse place. And you can't tell me that a person like that also wouldn't try this.
Oof. Heavy.
Steven remembers stuff his elementary school teachers tell him, but he can't remember the name of an actor who we've seen multiple times in multiple movies.
I don't have a defense. Okay.
I just think that you're filling your head full of garbage. You got to get your head out of the garbage. Pay attention to the real life and the people.
If you guys have
I'm
ever seen that newer that BBC version of Sherlock, the newer one with Benedict Cumberbatch, it was amazing. He quotes or he mentions several times that his head only has so much room for like Steven
This
does
is
that
my hard
sometimes.
drive. It's only useful, and if I have limited space, and it's only useful to put the really important stuff up there. So what does it matter if the Earth goes around the sun or round and round the garden like a teddy bear? Okay, now I'm sorry, bringing that full circle like a teddy bear.
Which of course Steven does have all the planets of the solar system memorized, but he is not going to know who the actors
All
are,
9 of them?
their names.
All 8.
9.
How dare you do Pluto dirty?
All 8.
Yeah.
This is a consistent debate between us.
Conspiracy
Not a
theory.
consistent
Steven.
debate.
Oh, we've got a conspiracy theory.
What was your conspiracy theory? I didn't hear it.
Caller, go ahead with your conspiracy theory.
Steven is a Pluto denier.
That's not a conspiracy theory.
That's true.
Pluto's a
Let's
planet.
refer that one to the
planet.
We're gonna refer that one to the conspiracy judges.
When I was in elementary school.
Okay, not good enough. I won't add it to the list. Anyway.
If you put Pluto in the same orbit as the asteroid belt, it would grow a freaking tail and dissolve over time.
There's going to be
Anyway,
some
we
movie.
can go on past Pluto. We can move on back to the movie.
You started
There's gonna be some movie someday, where an alien species is gonna come and be like, "You have 9 planets," and someone's gonna correct them, and they're gonna be like, "No, you have 9." And Steven, they will choose not to talk to you because of it.
Yeah, well, Planet
It
X
will not
is
be the
out there, I
representative
believe.
Earth.
And Pluto will be justified.
Much like Contact, this is actually going out into the internet sphere,
True.
and someone out there is going to hear our voices talking about the planets.
Ooh. See, that's the other thing that we haven't considered here. Us doing this thing right here, we have the chance now of being the first people ever heard by an alien civilization, and God, do I apologize for that.
You're going to come with references that no one else will understand and say, "Please take me to the hero of your revolution."
They're going to get off their spacecraft, raise both fingers, and go, boners.
I
Random-
never
random-
say that on the podcast.
Randomly
Never say that on
interject,
the podcast.
conspiracy theory! Right. So, after the explosion, Dr. Arroway, Ellie, finds her way back to her apartment, only to find that there's a bunch of communications and satellite screens set up in her living room, more or less. And she turns it on, only to find that it's connected to Mr. Haddon. We find out lives in space now. And once again, he sort of seems to have the answer and smoking gun to help her find the next piece of the puzzle. He seems to always seem to do that. Is that too much? Is it too less? Is he just a red herring or a deus ex machina? What's your thoughts on that, Steven?
I'll say it's like how I said earlier in the last podcast. I think that this movie and a lot of fiction from the 80s, the 90s, and the early aughts had very optimistic impressions of what a millionaire billionaire would be and how they would use their influence for mankind. And we are getting a rude awakening that we are in fact incorrect. They use their influence for probably bettering themselves, not necessarily, and their definition of mankind probably isn't as expansive as sci-fi authors thought it would be.
As expansive or inclusive as authors?
Or
thought it would be?
inclusive, yep.
Mm-hmm.
What a
Okay.
negative. What about all this negativity?
Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I wish I had a
Jeff Bezos just cut
super
off
rich like
how many people at the
patron like
Washington
that.
Post because he didn't want to fund a newspaper. Dude's a billionaire and he can't fund a newspaper. Yeah, man.
Can you imagine how sci-fi that would be if like billionaires could just travel to space whenever they wanted to? So crazy.
Oof.
Oof. So, Dr.
I will say
Ellie.
real quick, before we move on from that scene, they do have a really cool point in that scene that I really do enjoy, and that's when what's his name, the crazy billionaire looks into the camera, and goes, "You want to take a ride?" And that's a really fun little moment. I really enjoyed that.
It's a good one. And it's as they zoom in to show Aikido. I forget which island they're referencing in Japan. Hokkaido.
It's the island north of the main portion of Japan.
Mm-hmm. And they're referencing, like, she's figuring it out as he's explaining this, newly funded and now owned by Hatton Industries. Like, he's already acquired it, and that's why Japan was very reclusive in helping build the first one, because they acquired all the rights to the technology, and so they were just building it on the side. And he has the line about first rule in government funding: why build one when you can make two twice the cost? And that's pretty on point.
And that is,
So,
it's a good comment about government contracting and black box spending. If you were to build if you said to someone it takes $2 billion to build an Ohio-class nuclear ballistic submarine, who's going to question you on that? How can you question someone on that? Like, it's very difficult to actually get those correct costs, especially in something like this, which would be highly classified. So you could just tell them, yeah, my screw costs $45. I have to source it really, really well. And
the movie references that all of the world powers and industrialized nations of the world, technological advances, that this machine costs, I think they said like $250 million, quarter of a trillion, I think, or so, what they said, something of that nature. And now, fast forward 25 some years, our defense budget, I think, is like $1 trillion alone in the United States, something to that nature. So it's, I think Steven's on to a good point there too. All right. So Dr. Ellie Arroway finds herself in Japan getting prepped to go on another space travel. And she gets all buckled in, gets ready to go. And she points out that there's a chair, which is not something that's actually in the designs, which is interesting. Human beings have a trust issue, apparently. And we get ready to do this space travel, and the event happens. What are your thoughts? I don't want to spoil anything or jump too far ahead from beginning to end. What are your thoughts? Gary, if you have something to say, you could mute yourself.
Muted.
I'm muted to take some coughs out. Anyway, the chair is the one disconnect of her story being disbelievable. Like, she was in a chair, and then when they recover her, she's no longer in a chair. But the chair gets crushed in space. But let's just forget about that. Like, how did you take your seatbelt off in a matter of, I don't know, 10 seconds?
Right. Rip it off the wall that's been bolted there.
She's very strong.
Well, you also had it drop just straight from how high up. I mean, there could be a plausible argument that when it hit the net,
into a bed of water.
Yeah, water's really hard when you hit it.
Like, she should have been hurt in that case.
Still strapped in it with the chair knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think I'm not going to jump the gun and we can get to this, but that is by far in the movie not the biggest hole in the story.
Ooh.
But that being said, I mean, the event itself was, I don't know, for the movie, for what the movie does, I'm sure it's good, and for the time period that it was created, I'm sure that it's good. It strikes me as old, and when I watch it, that's how it feels when I'm watching it. This is a older generation's concept of what space looks like, and she has that line, "They should have sent a poet," which gets back to my idea. Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't have gone on this. They should have sent someone else. You are not qualified.
Interesting.
Just a question for clarification, Stephen. When you're saying it looks old, are you saying visually or the concept itself of what they knew at the time
Visually.
compares to what we know now, or a combination of everything? Just visually, it looks old.
Yeah, just visually for me.
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, there's also an idea of this. They talk about going through this Einstein-Rosenstein bridge, which would have been instantaneous. It's not going to be some Stargate-esque flying through
I had
whatever.
that exact note written down. Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a tunnel through the wormhole. It would be once you're over the event horizon, boom.
And so it's that is a little bit of outdated concept, but that also goes back to me. I think that's just how they had to portray it to older audiences and to people who maybe didn't have the scientific base that an average person brought up in our time would have. Gen X, eat your heart out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, essentially, yeah. I don't have a response to that specifically. If you do, so go ahead.
I mean, yes, technically it is, but it is an older movie. Like, it came out in '97. This movie is 28 years old. It's going to have an older version of all of that. But I'm trying to think of when Stargate came out. Yeah, the wormhole idea is very similar, but I also think that that's pretty on trend for the age.
That's why it seems old to me. That's just it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't not like the concept. I like the visual execution of the concept.
In terms of the moment of like should have sent a poet, it's such a cultural thing. Is that from this movie, or is that from the book, or is that like it
No,
was
it's
just
not in
made
the
for
book.
the movie? Okay.
Yep.
Because it
Does she
seems
get like
stilted.
Sorry.
I was gonna say it's like if it didn't seem like you watch Top Gun and you hear them say, "I feel the need for speed." You're like, all right, this is a fun little thing. I can see why this caught on, but like that became like it's a thing that like people say that about space stuff, and like you see it attached to images of space, and it's like it feels so forced and terrible.
It does.
I don't from that moment it felt to me like, oh, this must have been in the book or something, and they felt they needed to include it because it had been such a cultural thing. But yeah, if that
No, I'll get to that in a bit.
if that started with the movie, then that's
Yep.
I'm surprised, I guess.
I won't intrude on the movie with the book until we finish up the real movie parts, because I don't want to ruin this. But no,
Sure.
that's not in the book.
I'm interested to hear the book stuff too. Okay. Yeah, there's a couple little moments in that travel where she like has a pit stop at one area and then looks at a galaxy from a distance, and then the beautiful orange nebula that's spinning in the distance. And again, I think Stephen pointed out very astutely that it's meant to depict that she's somewhere else. It's very visually stunning, but some of the special effects do seem a little dated. But again, I think that's the concept they were trying to go for, is to depict it a certain way. Gary, Tyler, did you have any thoughts on it?
I would say that yeah, the space was not super scientific. I would say it was in the closer to the Star Trek generation than the than whatever you want to call like current sci-fi that has to have rules. And I mean they did a lot of science, like blah blah in the talking. So I feel like you needed to get a little more softer with the visuals to more what expectation was.
Well, and this is an unfair judgment on the movie, but I would say that Interstellar did a pretty good job about depicting scientifically accurate things like black holes, and instead of just trying to make it something easy for the audience to quite get.
Matthew McConaughey's in both. He just
He is.
evolved. He went from love interest to main character.
Now he's in the new Mass Effect replacement game, so look forward to
What?
that.
Is he?
I can't remember. It's not the actual Mass Effect. I can't remember what it is. I have my own thoughts on that. We'll save it.
All right.
The whole thing with that one is you have choices, and then you skip forward 20,000 years and see what effect your choices made. And it's like
Oh, yeah.
20,000 years is too long. That
That's-
doesn't. Your
that's
choices
a bit-
don't matter at that point. Like,
a
what are
bit
you talking
much.
about? You skip forward. Anyway, sorry.
Look for those
all right.
conversations and more in the game club.
All
Yeah,
right, all right,
exactly.
all
Going
right.
back.
So the travel sequence happens, and Dr. Arroway arrives and finds herself in a familiar setting. It appears that she has landed in sort of an ethereal Pensacola, Florida area. And
Oh, I didn't catch there was Pensacola. That makes a lot more sense. The beginning of the movie. You're just on a fucking beach.
I'm putting
Stop.
word. I'm putting thoughts into Gary's head. I'm ruining it for him because he didn't come to that conclusion on his own. Have that epiphany.
Don't worry,
I
Gary.
just knew I
I
was
just
a
thought it was a
magical
random
beach.
beach too.
You did?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I got it because they
I-
pulled her dad and then they pulled the beach. I figured it was
Yeah.
the whole memory thing. It was trying to be soothing.
That was too
Alright,
deep of a dive for me there. My mind was just
Oh,
like, oh,
come
they just
on.
put her on a random beach here because it's nice and calming, and
The tree in the background has the same curved arch as she drew in her picture the night that she was talking with her dad.
that was too long ago in the movie for me to remember.
I did
Too
notice
much
that.
science between those 2 points.
Again, I highlighted this movie because it's a movie that I've seen many times.
Well, Nick, I did notice that, so I did notice that as well.
I understand, and now it makes sense as Pensacola. But yeah, I definitely didn't catch that that connection.
Hold on.
Just-
Well,
Point of clarification. Don't they ask her, "Isn't this feel nice?" And she's like, says Pensacola. Now that I'm thinking about it, does that happen?
That I don't remember.
Nick, I think you're making
Pause
shit
right
up.
now, listener, and go back and watch the video, and then come back to this point in the video.
And then
Leave it-
tell Nick he's wrong.
I think
Okay,
she
so I
says
have-
something about like Florida, or looks around like she recognizes it's Pensacola. Anyways,
Gary, does the I mean, you say that you didn't catch it on your first watch through. Does that give the movie rewatchability in your idea? Because there are
Ooh.
things that you would not have caught if you hadn't watched it like a second time.
Pensacola doesn't matter. She thinks she's talking on a radio to her mom and to her dad and God. So
Our one listener who actually lives now in Pensacola, Florida, was so excited to hear this, and you just alienated our one listener.
I'm sorry, listeners from Pensacola, Florida.
We apologize.
I'm
to
from
the
Georgia,
entire
so
city.
fuck Pensacola, Florida.
Anywho, I remember. I will say this, and then I'll let you all decide or judge or weigh in. Gary always leads the judgment. When I remember watching this when I was younger, and I watched this part, and I caught that. Obviously, I didn't understand Pensacola, Florida, and all of that, but I caught that they were looking into her head to understand and make things easier for her. That I grasped when I was younger. To a certain extent, do you think that this is happening in her head? Or do you think that she could certainly still go, but are these hallucinations, things imported into her head? Or is this exterior to her? She could actually see and interact with these things?
So
A very deep
I
thought.
guess my riposte to that idea would be, then why the travel scene? If it's all happening in her head, why the travel scene? Why doesn't she just drop onto the beach? That would be my thought. Other than that, I don't think it gives good clarification, and I think that's part of the mystery is you don't know.
How about that?
Nick is wrong. That's all I know. The videotape recording gives a timeline of how long she was gone.
It's all
which
static,
means it
Gary.
can't be in her head. Some amount of technology traveled with her to the other realm. Or whatever technology was in her head also imprinted on the voice recorder. I mean, that could be it too.
I like that they kept it ambiguous because, as he pointed out, like this was the first of several small baby steps that we would need. That makes sense to me. If this was a couple hundred years ago, putting a technology straight there is not going to quite make sense. It's going to take some time. I think it's plausible that they actually traveled and this was part of it. Like it traveled and came back, and that was what the machine did just so quickly that no one saw it. But they do leave that up in the air. To me, it implies that she actually did travel. there's the wormhole scene, there's the rest of it. I did have the momentary thought this time watching the movie of they went into her head, they pulled the Pensacola scene, they pulled her dad, and I was like, for a moment there, like that's a pretty intrusive. That could be used like against you there, or if they had hostile things intentions at all, that could have gone very poorly. Go ahead.
I forgot. Nick, Steven distracted me.
What did I do?
Oh,
Catching strays.
you were asking about this
know.
is like the first contact of many. I feel like based on how this went, like the U.S. government slammed the door on this as like a complete hoax, and they probably buried any actual relevant data like in a folder somewhere. So as far as everyone knows, even internal to the government, this was a giant failure. So they're not going to try again. They're just going to slam the door and they're going to stop the next person and call them a hoax too. So I think that they slammed the door on any future discovery.
I held up 4 fingers because I wanted to talk last on this, at least to end a point that we were talking about with this. We can talk more about the travel sequence and stuff. But I was going to say, I thought that there's an upcoming scene with the courtroom scene, which we can go into, but she talks a little bit about we'll have to take this on faith. And I do agree. I like how it's ambiguous. It's not a lot of detail. There's not a lot of proof. And it's just kind of whatever it means to the traveler as far as, is this real? Is this not? Gary's comment really quick too, and I'll pass it off to JC. I think that publicly the government is slamming the door on this. I don't think that the government is going to spend that money and leave it alone. They'll probably already figure out how to weaponize it.
Yeah, I think there are elements of the government that, like, because it was that, I can't remember the character's name, the one that she asked for the dress, the higher up. So, like, she's the one that says, like, hey, there was 18 hours of recording. So it's like there are people within the government that know this is not something that is just getting the door closed on it. So it's very much something they're keeping in their back pocket. And if nothing else, as we saw from that weird flying jet in Hokkaido, they've clearly learned some tech at some point along the process here, whether it's completely from the alien designs or not. So yeah, the world is forever changed regardless of what the U.S. government decides to do, and I don't think they've necessarily closed the book on it directly.
Prometheus with the fire, right? Here's the new technology, and then terrible things. Cool. What were our thoughts on the vegans? The alien itself.
I don't think you really get very much from them. It's more of a contact, just basically saying they exist. I don't think the movie gives you. I don't think I was listening very intently to this conversation, and I didn't, other than the fact that they said that they didn't build the network that she came through, I don't think they gave her anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't even think of them as vegans because it looked to me like there was like that was like a stop. Like it was like a transport radio forwarding station, Who knows where they are, and he implied it. Yeah, and he implied that there was a lot of others there, so he's more like a messenger of many others, possibilities. He's all about the possibilities there.
Yeah, as my thought as well, that they were not necessarily vegans. It was the idea that, hey, there is it's not even just us, but there is even more than just us. That is a concept that at least expands on things a lot. But like mentioned, there's nothing really solid that is given there. It's just a lot of big ideas, kind of, without any solid supporting evidence to go off of that.
Like that. I hadn't really considered the fact that they themselves aren't vegans. It's just that was where they were found. And it's a very human thing to try and label and understand the world, not on what the species considers itself, but the perception of the observer. probably a whole scientific study on that. I thought it was really interesting too how the whole time this movie kept trying to trump up the fact that, well, they're a super advanced species to create this kind of a language, and you get there and they're like, we didn't build it. They're like, if I could find out just a piece of like what we're doing here and what is the meaning of life, and they get there and they're like, this is all you get. These are first steps. Like, it just highlights that nothing is simple. There's not a simple answer to everything. A lot of it is like getting a small glimmer of understanding the science and the technology and the hope behind what you want to know in the universe. And the universe is so vast that the answer is also going to be equally vast. And so I thought that was really interesting that you listen, like Steven said, I listened very intently, having seen this scene multiple times, but watching this scene, like, okay, this is the all-powerful supreme being of the universe, and our first meeting with aliens. He walks up and he goes, "Hi, Sparks." Right? Like, it's a very personal thing, but it's also very, like, what the hell? It's I think, meant to instill a tiny bit of humor. I kind of took away from it, reinforcing the fact that there's humility to be found in all of this as well. Like, she doesn't come back a changed supreme being herself with the knowledge of the universe and everything in it. It's she comes back with an experience, and that's all that both science and faith can offer sometimes. My 2 cents.
I also think that baby step, like you mentioned, it was there for, to let yourselves get that tiny glimmer of the science, of the technology. And I also think it's there to allow your species a little bit of time to mature, to reflect, to the attitudes, because they said this has been done for billions of years. Every species is going to be very different, wildly different, and have their own various societies handling things. They have probably seen a few species melt down over this.
Oh, I'm sure.
So they have, I think, as we saw them like come to terms with it, I think it's a good chance for them to be like, let's give you a little bit. You'll be more in the future. You guys can't jump right into it.
Everyone else has super positive outlooks on First Contact. I'm just like, this is gonna make things worse. Like, no good can come of this.
Well, they do make a comment where I think Ellie asks the alien, "Do they all come here?" And he says something to the effect of like, "Not all." So like, there are some people who get this message who just don't respond because they're unsure of the whatevers. Or maybe they come with weapons of their own because they're like, "Hey, we can conquer the aliens," and they're like, "Nope, divert back into the sun." Who knows? Yeah.
I was going to kind of go off of Gary's point there of like it being a bad thing and try not to let 2026 Tyler color that opinion there, because this is 1990 or early 2000s kind of hope and fantasy or whatever. So I mean, I think that's kind of the point here, is like, this is why they give them the small introduction, the small bit of knowledge and everything like that, to kind of, you're going to need time to have all of a sudden, it's now confirmed worldwide there is other life out there. Faith has to come to grips with that, science has to come to grip with that, other people's thoughts and beliefs, so that's why they get the little chunk at this time, and they say there will be more, because you have to now start accepting that as a fact. That is now fact, that you are not alone in the universe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if they had a penitent man go, that he'd be more believable? Someone who believed in God, was like, I believe in God, and I met aliens, or do you think that'd be less believable?
I don't think that
Steven?
necessarily the security risk for mass panic reduces regardless of who the messenger is.
Mhm.
So I think that one way or another, it is going to be Area 41 or Roswell, shall we say? Turn those into verbs.
Yeah.
Area 41?
41. Yeah, no, it's not Area 41, is it? What is it? Area.
Don't worry,
Don't
Steven. He doesn't know.
No one
about...
tell him. Nobody tell him.
Don't tell him.
Don't worry, Steven. They're not
It's
cool.
one of
They
those
don't know-
useless
they don't
pieces
know
of
about-
information he doesn't remember.
Area 6-7.
Oh, get out of here.
Don't worry about it, Steven. They're not cool enough to know what Area 41 is.
We were worried
That's
about dating
deep
the
secret,
podcast of
deep
2026
space
stuff, so Gotcha,
Steven muting us and jumping on Google immediately.
Yep.
Oh gosh, I should
Naruto
screenshot
running
that.
his way
Hold
over to
on.
Google.
Shit. Gotta screenshot this.
Gary, forever in this image,
Area
Steven
51.
doesn't know the answer.
10 off.
There you go.
There's Steven just like
10 areas
looking
off.
very intently up into the right.
Did you get it in
Well-
time?
I didn't.
Good.
Steven in the
Look, as-
pursuit of knowledge.
Oh,
Oh.
There you go.
I'm gonna commission a painting.
So the movie has a penultimate scene where then literally there's doubt and everybody questions what Dr. Arroway experienced and saw. And I don't know, the validity of a giant courtroom scene. That seems like something that would happen behind closed doors rather than a very public trial contemplating.
There's several
what
of
she
those
saw,
that I was like, why are we doing it this way?
right?
That's a guaranteed recipe for this to be not working out.
I think to the comment too that Stephen was saying, I think you're going to have bias in everybody who watches it. You're going to have half the people be like, she didn't have a religious experience. Only a religious experience can come from insert deity here. And you'll have the other half that says, well, of course it was a scientific thing that happened because there was no mention of a insert deity here because they don't exist. And so I think that no matter what, you're going to have mass hysteria and chaos.
Oh man, I'll be honest. I just completely forgot what I was going to say. I'll get back to you.
It's nice when that happens to people other than me.
I was gonna say, if they have a public trial, no one's gonna ask the questions like, "Oh, so you built one of these, but you just hid all of this money from the taxpayers to make a second one." That's super honest.
I think that it's the trial's probably there for just to show that bureaucrats are evil and bad. I mean,
I'm sure it's the
And,
concept of the movie.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to make a movie for the average Joe hates bureaucrats. So why not at the very end make the bureaucrat the enemy? That way, everyone gets what they want. You can be mad at the bureaucratic government. You can believe Ellie. You can all this other stuff. So that's my pessimistic take, is that people's theory of bureaucracy and the idea that bureaucracy is evil is tainting their ability to see what would actually happen.
Interesting. Do we have any opinions on Ellie changing her worldview in that courtroom as she tries to explain kind of what she's doing?
Nope, same person, still stick in the mud.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not going to go that far as Gary did there, but I don't think like she's completely changed. She's now experienced, though, something that she can't scientifically explain away there, basically. Like, something happened to her. She has no proof of it happening to her other than her thoughts and feelings and memories of it. So how do you go about then telling that to other people? So she has changed somewhat, but I don't think very drastically.
I think that she's gained the concept of empathy for the people who rely on faith. I don't necessarily think that she has changed her worldview in terms of she believes that everything is rational and scientific, but she understands now where people of faith are coming from in terms of, you can't just say, oh, it's just belief. I mean, you can prove it to me. Well, now she has something she can't prove. Therefore, she has something to empathize with them. Does she necessarily mean that she's going to sympathize? No, but or opposite, she can sympathize with them. Does she necessarily, or no, empathy, and I'm sorry, she can empathize, but she might not sympathize. That is what I meant to say. I apologize.
You're good.
Even small words.
Stephen, small words. Small words. I was going to say that I felt like it's almost a little forced at the end. I've mentioned a couple times about the humility and the hubris and understanding that the world is bigger than we think it is and getting outside our own perspectives. I mean, she goes from the other 95% of the world is delusional to I understand now. To me, I think that, I don't think her worldview has changed. It seems a little forced to me. And that scene always kind of didn't sit well with me. I appreciate the aspect of like, the hope and the betterment that we all have for humankind. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I want her to try. I think I would have. I don't know how, because the movie's already really, really long. But to see her like try and explain it in a science way and merge or bring the two together, because I mean, the world isn't just this or that, black and white, right? Maybe there's a little bit of both somewhere in there. I don't want people to change. I want people to logically come to something that makes sense still, right? Just because something's right doesn't mean something's wrong. So I don't know. That scene always kind of sat weird with me. That's my take on it. Amanda?
I like how you worded it that it's that weird of you, because honestly, it really did me too. I think she's definitely changed because she had this experience that's going to change her regardless. However, I didn't feel like she was necessarily identifying with the people who have to go on faith. I think she was just realizing for the first time she's finding herself in that position when she can't explain something. She knows something happened. She's convinced. She's realizing that this is the argument that people who are arguing that. The difference is she's still pretty convinced hers happened. And I don't feel like she really presented her argument the best way. I think that was probably a choice on the filmmakers to show her in that mirrored situation of like, hey, now it's your turn to try to convince someone to take it on faith. Because while we found the one big reveal, I feel like there possibly was a few others in there, a few other things that could have been taken and looked at, and like you said, she is a scientist. Like, she could have definitely described some of this pretty well, and it would have been something studied and looked into for a lot longer, and then not put onto a weird committee in front of the entire nation kind of a thing. It would have been interrogated a lot sooner than that.
I was also wondering if maybe that courtroom scene is to contrast the similar sort of courtroom scene before she went, of like, here's her being told that she lost the job because she has no faith and she didn't believe, and then afterwards it's this contrast of like, she does believe but no one else does, so she's, as you said, the opposite side of the belief spectrum. And yeah, I don't know, I didn't like it either. That was I didn't know how to word it, but it was just kind of heavy-handed. JC?
Yeah, no, it's kind of describing Disforce was my read on it as well. Once we got to this point, I just kept hearing the Book of Mormon's songs in my head, where it's like, oh God, why are you letting me die without show people the golden plates that should prove your worth? And it's like, they'll just have to believe it just cause. Oh, I guess that's kind of what you were going for. Like, well, yeah, that's a very funny way to put this faith argument out there. But then they're putting it like, oh man, now she has to have faith, and it's very dramatic and hand holding you through this concept that is like, yep, it's faith. It's not really that tricky. Maybe for 1997 audiences, it's somehow like a bigger concept. But between like, I was already kind of like with the should have sent a poet line that already took me back. I'm like, are we just treating the audience like kids here? What's going on? But
to be fair, I've met my
given
parents.
how good.
I was going to just say, I've met my parents. I've met the audience of 1997, and yeah, they need to have their hands held a lot of the time. So,
but one of the things I really liked about the opening parts of the movie is that they don't hold the hands. They're like, AWAC status negative. Like, that's a great thing of just like, you don't need to understand all this. This is great. We're just going through. And then like starting at that point, they're like, all right, well, wait, hold on. We want to make sure you're coming along here. So like, should have sent a poetry, like
Nebula, pretty.
This is beautiful. Faith. It's just, yeah, it all starts to feel very forced at that point.
So after the courtroom scene, again, maybe a little forced, unbelievably so. Everybody just kind of goes back to their regular lives. It seems like Dr. Ellie goes back to the array in New Mexico and just starts, trying to continue searching the stars, trying to hear if there's anything else out there. She's got a small school tour, it sounds like, and some kid, again, asks her, what's out there? Are there any other signs of life? And she, again, this is the third time, the rule of three, repeats the line, well, if there's nothing else out there, it seems like an awful waste of space. And just kind of reiterates that maybe there's something out there she maybe believes that there is now because she's met somebody. She's had her experience, but we don't know the greater scheme of what else is unfolding in the world. And the movie concludes with her just how it kind of started, with her all by herself out on the ridge, just kind of looking at the rocks. And I think that there's the stars in her hand with the rocks that she's got. There's a little bit of a twinkle there. She's just kind of looking at terra firma in her hand with the stars above her. And that's where it ends. So it's just kind of this full circle moment of she's back to where she was, but she had an interesting experience throughout the movie that just changed her. Steven.
I was wondering, I think we brought up a couple times that the movie gets, I would say, qualitatively dumber as it moves through. Do you think that is a impression on how, like, AWAC status negative in the very beginning to explaining everything at the very end? And we're talking about this portion as well, where they're trying to loop it back to the beginning. Do you think that maybe the show writers or the movie writer, who producers, whatever, whoever makes the movie, I don't know who makes the movie, whoever makes the movie, at a certain point went, oh my god, the audience is going to be bored, and therefore you start strong and just make it dumber and dumber as you lose your audience?
Steven, the job title is called a screenwriter. There's someone who
Mm.
writes for the screen. That is all.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I definitely brought this up the last episode here that at the half, well, not even halfway point. This is like the 2/3 point of the movie where, like, it's there's a second machine and stuff like that. It's like that's where it kind of just starts. It felt like, okay, we're not being as serious anymore. It's a little bit off the rails. Like we're still bringing the science stuff in bits and pieces, but now we're really just kind of veering off here. So everything kind of towards the end, it just felt like it got progressively, I don't want to say dumber, but just simpler for everyone involved kind of watching.
I will say I'll say this first. I don't want to say that this movie doesn't stick the landing, but the landing is definitely subpar. I feel like there's a lot of intrigue as to what does this message mean? Where is it actually coming from? Oh, the message has this, substance in it that looks like it's schematics, but we don't know how to discern it. And there's a lot of like, oh wow, and you get to the ending and there's this ball, and then you can actually travel in it, and it's this, and it's like, haha, here's the reveal, and now there's no more story to intrigue us with. There's no more travel, AWAC, government conspiracy, NSA director trying to pull the strings. It's just kind of, this is what we saw as the omniscient third party observers in the audience. And it's just kind of like, okay, what do we do with it? And then the movie ends, there's credits. So there's not really a lot, like I said, of sticking the landing or explaining or something we're meant to take away from this, other than sometimes things have no definition and it's for us to interpret meaning, which seems very unfulfilling. You to an extent, I think that we as a species want to know the answers. We want to know, X plus Y equals whatever. At the same time, being told to make up our own determination of what gives meaning is very vague sometimes. Not everybody's capable of doing that.
I won't get into the exact definition of this until just a little bit from now, but the book does stick the landing in this way.
Ooh, I'm curious. I want to know.
And that's maybe what makes it harder for me to watch the end of the movie, and why I've been maybe a little bit more quiet, because it's everything you just said about, I enjoy a movie with a ending which isn't, you're not spoon feeding it to me. You're giving me room to think, and you don't tell me how it ends. I really enjoy that, and I think the book does that as well. But you can give a little bit of the, like what you're saying, there's some sort of evidence, there's some sort of something out there for you to actually ponder over. It's not just, do you believe it? And that's the end question.
Yeah.
Give them a question, actual something to chew over. And that's what the movie doesn't do. The movie ends and that's it. There is nothing to chew over.
I feel like you guys were saying that the movie gets stupider as you go. It's an equal level. There's equal stupid in different places at different times. What the writers do well is interpersonal conflict and basic earth science. Like the plane, the airplane stuff, the all that science stuff, and then the fact that everyone's got a boss, and that if this existed, there'd be bureaucracy and government. What does it do terribly? It does. The people wrote a terrible romance subplot. They wrote a terrible philosophical subplot. Like, if you would have pulled those two pieces out and maybe spliced in something a little better, like maybe it's not a sub. Maybe she just got a new BFF. Like, it doesn't have to be romantic. It's just this dude, this crazy dude I met in. I don't know where that
Puerto Rico
place was. In Puerto Rico. Thank you. And he just shows back up. And all that other like spiritual stuff, like just cut it out or have somebody who's better at that. Like that's, I think it doesn't get stupider. It's like when they try to jam in the spirituality and the romance, like if you pulled those two pieces out, I think there is a better movie to be made here.
Vehemently disagree with the idea about the philosophy and the theology. That is one of the core portions of the story. Vehemently agree on the romance.
Who cares about the book? I'm talking about a good movie.
Yeah, a good movie should be based on a good book. That is why Return of the King will always be better than Return of the Jedi.
Snaps.
You dirty whore.
All right. So that was all the synopsis. We had a lot more in there, and this was a lot longer than I anticipated it being. But really interesting to go through the movie. Stephen, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts and your take on some of the highlights that we touched on from the book.
Let me start by asking, is anyone going to read this book? I have the book that I can loan to people if they feel like reading it, and I don't necessarily want to ruin it, because there are some bigger plots.
I will not. Go ahead, Stephen. I will not tie myself to refusing to read the book.
So general,
I may read it.
Spoiler alert for the
General spoiler
listener.
alert.
But I've already seen the movie,
If
so
they're
what does it
going
matter?
to want to read the book, a general spoiler alert, right? Sometime.
Yeah,
here.
no thanks. I'll watch the movie.
Unlike
So-
Gary, I can read, but I don't plan to read this one.
So I guess the first and the biggest thing right off the bat is in the book, her mom is alive the entire damn book. The entirety of the book. Her dad dies about the same time as she dies in the book, but the mom alive the entire time. The mom actually remarries to a stepdad, which is a plot point because the stepdad's always saying, well, you're a girl, you really shouldn't be doing this physics stuff. And she's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyways. And that's one of the, and it's a major plot point at the end of the movie, or end of the book, I should say. Then obviously, I think I hinted at this earlier, the Palmer Joss is not the love interest in the book. Palmer Joss is just a really weird-ish kind of dude that's really down to earth and then becomes a really good friend for Ellie. That is his point, and he is a theologian. He is someone who is very Christian-oriented, and he's very famous, but he's just there is no sex, there is no anything like that. She has an actual love interest, and that is the presidential scientific advisor, which gives the book a bit more. She is romantically attracted to the scientific advisor, but she has all she can't stay away from this the Palmer Joss, because Palmer Joss has all these he's grounded, and he's not like some crazy theologian or whatnot. He's just trying to do the best he can, I guess. Gary, you're raising your hand.
I was gonna say like that. My feedback is like it didn't need to have a romance. Do you feel like, obviously you can't take romance out of the movie, but if Palmer Joss was just introduced as a friend, like he probably would have been a lot more.
I think it would have been a lot.
Yeah.
I think the movie would have been significantly better if they did not make Palmer Joss the love interest. They didn't need to introduce a love interest that necessarily. Like, he plays a point in the book, and it expands on her as a person, him as a person, and all this other stuff. But I don't think it's critical to have a woman have to have a love interest. It's not. I also did mention this. There's so much nationalism in the movie compared to the book. For instance, in the movie, or in the book, the first person that Ellie talks to about finding this thing is not the Australians. It is a Soviet counterpart in the USSR, Vijay, and works with him. But then there's national security implications on that, but they work kind of through it. And the national security advisor, who we see a couple times in the book and ends up being a dick at the end of a couple times in the movie and ends up being a dick at the end of the movie, but quiet most of the other time. He was pretty much the dick throughout the entire book, and Dave Drumlin wasn't half the dick that he was. So they take away, or they make the national security advisor a nicer person and give all the bad ideas or bad stuff from him to the bureaucrat, which is where come from. Tyler.
Remind me, in the movie, the national security advisor, is that James Woods?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for answering that, because don't know who James Woods is.
Yes.
One of the other things in the book, there are actually, in the end, 3 machines are built.
Wow.
At the beginning of the book, there are 1 machine being built in the west, 1 machine being built in the east, and it becomes kind of a, east versus west sort of rivalry. And then the Russians have some sort of manufacturer failure, which leaves the US one as the only one. And then there's still the bomb plot. And then there was also a private contractor, which obviously was Haddon, and he's doing his own thing, and he's making his own stuff on Hokkaido. So there are 3 being built, 1 by the east, 1 by the west, 1 by private enterprises. And Haddon is a Deus Ex Machina throughout the book as well. That is very similar. Back on the nationalism thing, when they finally do build this, the device, it is an international crew of like 6 people that are selected to go, not 1 person. So it is a US person, it's a person from India, it's a person from Nigeria, it's a person from Russia, and it's a person, maybe it's 5 people. But anyways, it's a person from China. Like, why do you have to just send 1 person? What's the point of that? Nick, you're first.
That makes so much more sense to me. 8 billion people on the planet, and it's like, nope, we just need 1. Like, obviously the schematics and in the movie it just shows 1 single person in the thing. But if they're going to add in a chair, you can build in 4 more chairs. If you're going to change the fundamental concept of it, it would make so much more sense to send a group of different people. That way, multiple beliefs, multiple nationalities, that are all human beings would be represented. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, not to mention you're like 1 accident away from that person being so important and then being passed out because there was not a single, because you only sent 1 serious safety issue.
And then
they don't have the buddy system.
Oh, and not just that, but I mean, it's like it just puts the JC's comment about they should have sent a poet into such relief, because a Chinese person is a classical archaeologist. Like, yes, they should have sent a poet. You're right.
If only someone could have thought of that and written it down.
Someone, would have thought of it.
Well, that's interesting. I might read the book now just because I want to know how those, if they are able to back each other up or not. Don't tell me.
I won't.
So, yeah, as I say, so then you said there is the bomb plot. Do those people bye-bye?
There are 2 crews. The first crew is taken out by the bomb, and so then there is a second crew.
Is the terrorist as creepy as Gary's Jake Busey turns out to be? Do they portray
Jake Busey played by Gary? Yes.
I just want to see Gary with a long blonde wig now.
Do
they portray the terrorist as somebody who's like a faith-based, like very sternly doing this because it's against religion or my perceived beliefs?
That is the same. And so, and that is a big thing in the book, is you do have 3 competing lines of faith in the book. You have Palmer Joss with more of a, I don't want to say a liberal outlook because that has those is political terms now, right? But it has more of a open, forgiving outlook of Christianity. Then you have another person, Raskin, who is much more of the conservative, hardline, I would say Baptist, if you would,
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
Christian conservatives. And Ellie deals with both of them. And then there's the radical Christian, and that is the guy who ends up bombing it. So they present basically saying, hey, you can be a liberal good Christian, you can be a conservative good Christian, or you could be the psychopath bombing the space shuttle. Your choice.
Do unto others with heavy explosives.
Yeah, exactly. I will say Haddon does not die in the book. It is a fun little thing. He fakes his death. He does go to the space. He goes up to space, and he builds his own space station. He doesn't contract the Mir. He builds
Oh,
his own.
that's such a him thing to do too.
And then he
That's so Haddon.
cryogenically freezes himself and shoots him off into space.
Oh God. Okay, well that's all true to character from what I can see.
So I enjoy the Haddon character. I do very much so.
He shoots himself cryogenically frozen into space.
Yep.
To where? To how to be rewoken?
He is now
Rewoken?
he's still I don't remember if he's dying or not. But he is aware now that there are aliens out there, and he is aware that there's more to life on Earth. And the book version of him is very not. He is still a crazy engineer, but he's much more. I don't even know how to describe it. They meet in a carnival, and not in like a rundown hotel or a plane. He owns his own entire carnival area where he has gates of Bathsheba and gates of something that you can enter through, and everything is all like, he's very different in the book in that way. One of the core, and this is why again I started not liking the movie as much. When they do go through the wormhole, the crew of 5 actually they go through the wormhole and they're immediately there at Vega, and they sit at Vega for like 5 hours waiting for something to happen. And during that time, they're like, "Oh, look at that over there," where they're identifying different celestial things, and then another wormhole opens up. And they go through that, and it's basically like an interstate exchange system, and that's why it takes so long to get to their end position, because these wormholes open at different time frames.
Well, you gotta wait for your layover, you know?
That's exactly what's happening. They finally get there, and each person is taken off by a representation in their head of someone that they either truly love or truly respect. Obviously, Ellie's is her dad. But you have like the Chinese person that I mentioned goes and talks to a ancient Chinese warlord that he very much feels akin to.
Cool.
The Indian woman who's a doctor talks to her dead husband, and they all have these individual conversations with the aliens, but the same sort of way of talking through their heads and projecting through the people. But that being said, the aliens actually give you something. Sorry, Nick.
Ooh, no. I'm glad that I was able to jump in right there, because I do want to hear that next bit. But I think that that's so interesting, that having multiple people there with a very similar shared experience, because then even if it's different and you talked to somebody different, you can still explain that experience. I think that there's I appreciate, especially the older I get, the solitude and quiet solemnity of being able to just like sit with your own thoughts. But I firmly believe the human experience is meant to be shared as well. And so having something that profound be something you can freaking talk about with other people, not just you're false and that's a fraud, I think is a really cool part of the story. So I'm glad to hear that everybody has a similar experience, that it's not just like, I don't know what I experienced versus you.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So what did they receive?
So they get to talking, and they learn that, yeah, these aliens, whoever these, they're not Vegans because you went to somewhere other than Vega, but these people that you're talking to, they don't know who built this system. And what they go on to say is, do you guys know what the irrational number pi is, or the imaginary number pi? It's irrational, isn't it? It's not imaginary.
3.141592653.
Yes, and ongoing and ongoing. And what the alien explains is that they have their own version of pi that we will find at some point if we go down the road of mathematics far enough. And that if you go down pi long enough, you will find a hidden encoded message, basically. Like billions of digits down. Like you have to have quantum computing to find this message. And they have found their own version of this in their own version of pi, and they need help solving it. And so they are basically recruiting or working with other species to get them ready to integrate into this community and then get working on who the heck built this system. And so that is the statement is, hey, you need to, just like pi, we have this thing. We are trying to solve it. We do not have enough power to solve it. We need your help. And eventually you people will become, enough to understand what's happening. And I think Ellie has a moment of a why, and she just asks us, and it's like, you guys aren't ready. And they, at that point, eventually, the conversation goes on from there. They get sent back home, and all 5 of the people have the same, like you said, memories, and they all have the same things, but the thing just dropped, just like it did in the movie, and no one believed. Well, here's the thing. Every single person's story is perfectly corroborated. They have no time to actually corroborate it with each other. Therefore, everyone knows something happened, but you can't prove that something happened, and the governments get real fucking scared. And so they forbid anyone from ever talking about this in classified sessions. The National Security Advisor, the U.S. one, that's a dick, is a huge proponent of classifying all this stuff because it's a security concern, blah, blah, blah. There are no tapes. The tapes are completely magnetically erased. So there's literally no evidence. It's not one of these MacGuffins that you can say, ho, ho, ho. No, there's no evidence other than the people.
Sure.
And to be clear, they were magnetically erased by the process of dropping through, or
by the process of going through the wormhole.
Classifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that all leads back to the mom and dad thing and how her mom's been alive. After Ellie gets back, she goes and I'm going to start looking into pi now. I'm going to figure out what is hidden in pi. And she's doing this algorithm on it, and she gets a message that her mom has died. Her mom's passed away. And so she's sad. She goes to find it, and her stepdad is standing out there, and he has a letter, and he says, "This is from your mother. She never wanted you to read this until she was gone. Please do not read this until I have left. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me afterwards." And gives the letter, and she walks away, and what the heck was that all about? Because I obviously Ellie idolized her dad, right? And her mom's been around with this guy who's been a dick to her entire life, and now he's handing her some letter from, what the heck is this? She opens the letter, and boom, learns that she is not the daughter of her dad. She was the child of an affair between her mother and the stepdad. So her father the entire time has been this other guy who she hated while she idolized her mother. And the point of that in the book is to emphasize that you couldn't have told her that as a kid. She wasn't ready. She couldn't process it mentally. And so just like you can't process that mentally as a kid, it's kind of heavy-handed maybe, but these aliens can't send the information over to Earth because we just can't process it. We can't comprehend it. So that's why they're not going to tell us immediately. And then last thing of the book is she does find a message in pi. It's just like a circle, but it's something. And it's the point that somebody constructed the rules of the universe to the point where they changed the physical properties of the universe to leave messages in random statistical numbers. Pretty dang cool. And that's what you left chewing over.
Hold on. Out of all the blah blah, like the different bio dad, like that seems like That would have been a much better ending to the movie. I am so sad now.
Right?
Although I don't know how the heart attack works and her not getting the medicine if a mom's still around.
He dies of like a stroke or something. There's nothing with the medicine. There's nothing. She's not trying to search for people on some weird AM radio. She's just a normal kid and just attracted to science because girls can be attracted to science too without having to have some weird thing shape their lives.
The AM radio is also a figmentation of the movie too.
I don't remember if it's an entire figmentation, but it's not as critical.
Okay.
See, I thought about the pie thing because there is a thing in Stargate where they're trying to figure out how to talk to someone else. Like, how do you math the more universal language? So they like draw a line on a circle to indicate pi. And so when they first do the prime numbers, I was like, why don't you just use pi?
That's the kind of cool point of this book is that, I mean, we're always learning stuff in science regularly. We have not calculated pi to the infinite number because it is an infinite number. So what if there is something like created in the actual thing of pi? Sorry.
No, you're fine. I have a feeling, like realizing that, I have a feeling that I'm sure the writers of that watched this show and had like a similar idea of like, oh, math, clever, let's write this because that came out many years after that.
I like the thought of realization, whatever that means, being just over the horizon to something we've already broached, but we just haven't worked it down to its most granular yet. I think that's an interesting concept. Cool. Well, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate the quick synopsis of rundown of the book.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else?
Otherwise, it wasn't the quickest synopsis, but we'll take it.
Well, I wanted to get the key plot points, which I think the book was much better than the movie. I don't think the movie was necessarily horrible, but I think the book is so good. Sorry.
I think that's fair.
That needs to be on a shirt for Steven. The book was better.
The book was better. Yeah, I like this movie. I thought that it had a lot of really interesting points, even if in comparison to the book, it didn't have a great execution. I thought it was an interesting way to portray the search for knowledge and what it means to us. So that's all I have. Thanks, folks.
Well, I did enjoy the movie. I'm not going to say that I didn't. It is a fun movie to watch. It gets frustrating towards the end, but it is still a fun movie to watch. If anything, I just wish they'd done away with that stupid romance and the romance subplot in there. But it is still a fun movie. It's still fun to see all this stuff go through, and it's an enjoyable movie.
I do have an important question for you guys now that we know that Vega was like a layover. Do you count the airports that you don't actually leave as visiting that city? So did they visit Vega or not?
No.
Just curious.
No.
The very first time I went through Europe, I counted that I had been to Italy, even though it was just a layover.
Oof.
But going back at it now, I do not.
See, like I think somewhere further away, like if you're just passing through a smaller city, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Doesn't seem like you want to count it. But if she's the first person to travel mentally or physically out of the solar system, do you not want to count that? And yet it's not like she got to exit the airport there.
Right.
So, like I said, important questions, guys.
I didn't think it was I didn't think it was absolutely terrible. It had some points, but it wasn't great. I would not recommend this movie.
How? Really?
I just don't think it doesn't stick the landing. It's got a weird romantic subplot. Like the actors in the movie all of the actors in the movie have been in better movies somewhere else.
I'll give you that. Okay.
That doesn't necessarily do a movie injustice.
I detracted a lot of points from Jodie Foster, who I thought was like an A-list actor. I was like, wow, this is not good.
Whoa.
What about Jodie
Matthew
Foster?
McConaughey. I enjoy Matthew McConaughey movies. I did not think he was good in this movie.
I think the roles maybe written for them were not amazing, but that being said, I think they did a fine job acting.
Yeah, I
He just
liked
wants
it.
to take them out in the street and do away with them, apparently.
Like, yeah, it's an older movie, but like I liked it, and I thought it was. I mean, it was a long movie, which is kind of surprising because that was less common back then. But they had to pack a lot in. I enjoyed it.
I don't
Couple
know
things I
if
think
you
could have been
what you
better.
would cut out if you had to cut 20 minutes out of this movie. What would you cut out if you had to cut? I don't know, 20
The
minutes
romantic
out. What do
subplot.
you got?
I think if I had to cut something out of this, I probably would have taken something out of the beginning with the Puerto Rico stuff. You can get the premise that David Drumlin's a jerk without all the exposition about him cutting funding and him just being hard and kind of hard nosed to her.
I think some of the dad stuff, just a little less dad.
You got to keep the dad. It's like, where's the attachment that she really cares for him if you don't have any scenes
Okay,
with him
how
and her?
about the dad's death or the weird priest or like
You can
they
cut the
just
priest
jump
part.
forward 20 years and like yeah, you end up pretty screwed up with no parents and supportive members of the cloth like that.
I think you need a little bit of time with the dad to have his return at the end make the impact it does.
I understand. I just like, as I said, I think it's an okay movie. Not great. Definitely not great. Definitely not terrible. But everyone in this movie has been in other movies that they're much better at.
That's fair. That's like your opinion, man. That's all we got.
All right. So we good to close out this recording then? All right. So I believe that is everybody's movie then we have gone through and watched. So I believe, as typical, our next episode will just be the wrap up to cover the season of everything that we've watched. And there are some early discussions going on, dear listener, of what we're going to do for next season. Still working out the details on that. Any final?
Cross your fingers, Evangelion fans.
Any final remarks from anyone else?
I enjoyed that you made us watch this movie again. I'd forgotten what this movie was like, and thank you for having us watch it.
Yay!
Yeah. Happy to have seen it.
Mm-hmm. Except for Gary. Yep. Gary just hates everything.
It was the best of the bad options Nick put forward.
It was the best of bad options. It was the worst of good options. This is a Gary phrase.
Yes. I take that as high praise.
Well, before we dive too deeply into that guardrail that Gary's driving us towards, I'll close us out here. Thank everyone for listening. We hope you have a good one. Until next time.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Later, folks.